I'm Jamie Carragher, and you are listening to the Pint Podcast.
What is happening, everyone? Welcome back to the Pint Podcast and Pod and a Pint episode 2. We are back in Shenanigans, back on the Guinness once again. I've just sunk my first one. Neil's on his first one. Obviously, he came later than me though, so it's not a dig at Neil or anything. But of course, as you can see, I'm
not a race. Even if it was, it still wouldn't be a race. We don't want to start getting split in the G chat. You know what I mean? This place is far too cool for that. Yeah, we'll just drink the drink like a normal human.
As you can see, I'm joined by Neil Atkinson. Neil.
Hello.
Thanks very much for
your time. Pleasure. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, it's of course we've done the first one last week with Robbo, so I thought get the stalwarts in early doors, get Robbo in, get Neil in.
I'm surprised Robbo's not come back for the second one. It's upstairs in Shenanigans. I didn't know until right now. I love Shenanigans. I think it's great, but I've never known it as an upstairs.
Yeah,
I'm the upstairs of the business.
Yeah. Sound it?
Yeah. You're not going to get rid of me. I'm going to be here every week. Every Tuesday, I'm just going to mooch down at the end of the day. All right, Mick. Fucking hell, he's here again. It's episode 28.
Yeah. Well, you might see the Anfield wrap here then, because I've opened up a window here, haven't I? But like we did last week, I thought we'd do like a random opening question before we get stuck into Man City and contract talk and injuries and whatever else. So a random question was from Doug, and the question is, 5 people around your Christmas dinner table, who would you have and why? I'm not sure if that's Liverpool or anyone, so do you want to do Liverpool or do you want to do...
I just thought, firstly, the answer to Christmas anyway is like people that you know and love.
Yeah.
So it is like a little bit, it is a little bit tough to think of, but I'm not going to cheat, and I'm not even going to do Anfield wrap people, but that did occur to me. So I've got 2 that straight away just occurred to me. Hannah Waddingham and Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's a good one actually.
Yeah, she'd be great. She'd be great company, made up to see everyone, dead interested in what everyone's got going on. Really really all in and just really gregarious. I'm pleased to see you.
Ted Lasso fan then?
Yeah, well, the first 2 series, I didn't really like the third, and I sort of switched it off. The first series in particular I thought was great. Second was all right. Third, but she's just the business, if you know what I mean. So you can imagine she's not going to be hard work. She's not going to be graft. Jurgen's going to rock up, and Jurgen's going to quite emphatically just sort of run around and be himself. You can
easy enough.
Yeah, you can absolutely rely on him for that. So that's my first 2, and then I begin to get just a little bit stuck, to be honest with you, because 5 is like, it's a big number.
Might be too many, mightn't it?
No, I mean possibly. I'm there as the 6th, presumably. Yeah. So no, I think those 2 just were the 2 that popped into my head, and then at the minute I'm really enjoying every interview Denzel Washington gives.
Yeah,
but I don't want to, because he seems so sound, and he's pretty, he's got a bit of everything about him. But I don't want to overdo the world of actors, because actors can all then get on top of each other.
Yeah, true.
So I'll probably just say Beyonce to give me an excuse to get Beyonce down to ours and have a chat and see what's going on there. So that gets me to 4. And tell you what, you can be me 5th.
Go ahead then.
What a time we have.
Me, Beyonce, Hannah Waddingham, just having a chat about Ted Lasso
and singing.
And Jay-Z or whatever.
Yeah, whatever they fancy. Jurgen wondering what the fuck's going on here. Jurgen, by the way, he's simultaneously so out of touch with popular culture, but because of his time off, has been getting in touch with popular culture. So you as good as Taylor Swift.
I was just thinking in my mind, Jurgen was the grandpa from Simpsons. You know that meme where he takes his hat off, puts it on the rack, turns back around, puts it back on, and goes out again.
Just maybe. I reckon Jurgen would enjoy quality time with Denzel.
No. I think he would, to be fair. But yeah, I don't know. I was going a bit rogue on, man. I was thinking I was trying to fuck people up, but it's probably not the right thing to do.
Not Christmas. Not Christmas, because you're having a shit Christmas now as well.
Yeah, true. Because I wrote initially, I was just like, it'd be funny if it was like Snoop Dogg and Eminem, and then Seth Rogen, and then just throw David Attenborough in there just to see what the fuck he does.
I reckon David Attenborough would have a lovely time. I think they'd all be dead interested in him.
Yeah, they would. Yeah.
What's he got this phone? For what? What's the video stuff that doesn't get put out there?
Exactly.
Throw us that one.
Yeah, give us all the edits.
Yeah.
Yeah, Liverpool one. if we just we'll do both.
I mean, current squad, you'd always going to pick Andy Robertson.
Yeah.
And at the minute, I'm really enjoying Mo Salah's general vibe, not just because he's brilliant at football, but other stuff as well. I'm enjoying Mo's style a little bit at the minute. Curtis, obviously, would be phenomenal. Really, really good company. Alison Becker would be really responsible and look after things in a bit of a boring way. And then it depends what you want as the other one, in that you want it to be mad, so you pick Darwin. He can't sit still. So opens all his presents too quick. He's got himself all carried away. Or is your vibe going to be all chilled, at which point you'll have Virgil? So I think that'd be the way in which I go. I don't think I want Arna.
No.
Not because I think he's boring or anything, but I'm sort of enjoying his air of mystique.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to know much more yet. I will find a bit more about him every week.
Don't look behind the curtain.
No, not yet. We'll get there eventually, but for now, I like the idea every week, today a little bit of needle towards City, and then I'm only joking. So I'm quite enjoying him sort of unfold like a book, rather than the idea of, and here I am.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think, I wrote I wrote Robbo. It's just that, like, it's too middle of the road. It's got like Klopp and Slot, because I thought, like you said, I think you're putting like Slot. We don't want to know too much about him yet, because, like I said, there's that air of mystique. Gerrard, for obvious reasons. He's the idol. I was like, did he a man just because but then he'd fuck shit up as well. He'd fucking get his own from in jail or whatever, wouldn't he? So, and I wrote Robbo and I wrote Canate as well, because I think
Canate's great. Yeah, he's great to be around.
Yeah, just an absolute legend. But all right, we'll box that off there. Let's before we get stuck into like contract stuff and all that, and Newcastle, which is tomorrow, let's talk about Man City a little bit, because incredible, like to go to beat the European champions, to beat the English champions 2-0, both 2-0, keep a clean sheet in the way that we did, especially against City. I just thought it was the stuff of dreams are made of for me, because I think when you, even now, like, it reminded me of like the week when we in 08-09 when we beat Madrid at home 4-0, and then 4 days later we beat United at Old Trafford 4-1. And that week's always looked back on, or that 4 days always looked back on with like, oh, that was a fucking amazing week, because I think we beat Villa as well. Just after 5. But obviously, I think in the grand scheme of things of now, I feel like we need to back it up with the next results. Obviously, Newcastle and Everton. We need to be, the ruthlessness needs to come through.
Yeah, that was what was key about that season that you referred to there. When those games happen, it's later in the campaign, and in the end, they don't win anything. It's worth pointing that out. But they win a lot of games. I mean, they win every league game apart from one against Arsenal. To the end of the season after that United result. It's just that United have got the games in hand, and they just managed to keep enough at arm's length at that stage. I'm very, with it, they have got to back it up. I think we've got to be prepared for the possibility of 4 points from the next 2.
Yeah.
In terms of the stuff that dreams are made of, I think that it's interesting to sort of reflect now a couple of similarities between City and Madrid. Madrid have got 6 or 7 really good players out injured, and I thought that they looked like they lacked a little bit of sharpness. Yeah. And City, they had players who were playing injured, I thought. Yeah. But we don't have that at the minute. And last season, we suffered for injuries a lot. Two seasons before then, we suffered for injuries a lot. Yeah. And I think that some of these clubs now have just had so many intense years on top of each other that, of course, the players are going to break a little bit. And, at the minute, that's bending our way. We're the ones who look like we've got fit players. We've still got our own injuries, don't get me wrong. They shouldn't be talked down. The goalkeeper, Jota, been major. Trent has been out for an extended period of time there as well. Now Canate's got his knock after the Madrid game. So we've got our own injuries, but we're just the right side of being able to function. Whereas I think City are completely dysfunctional. And I think it is fitness. I think there's other issues that might come to the fore, and the age of the players sort of links into this, don't get me wrong. But I just think in general, I'm looking at lads who aren't fit. And I'm not saying this to talk Liverpool down in any way. I'm saying that part of what Klopp wanted to do was make sure we were as fit as possible. But also, again, we just sort of had our hard year last year. Salah doesn't play as much football last year as he has in years gone by because he gets injured. Yeah. And you can sort of go through the squad and go, he didn't play as much last year. Gravenberch doesn't play as much last year because he's been messed about in pre-season by Bayern Munich. He's not quite ready for us. Well, guess what? He looks great this season playing for us. Yeah. So Bosley started the season as well as he started last season, but he had an injury. And so he's a little bit more rested. You can sort of go through and see that, I think. And, I think it's a challenge that all big clubs have got now because the load on the players is so great. But what helps with us is we're playing brilliantly as well. They were brilliant first 20 against City, brilliant second half against Madrid, genuinely brilliant. No one could have lived with them. And I think that having that where your opponents are, it just bodes so well.
Yeah, because I think I kind of came away from the match like I was like that. But the first 20 minutes, like you said, we blew them away completely. Like it was mad. It was just a joy to watch. It really was. Yeah. And then it's the different styles though. Like I spoke on the preview show with Christian about this. Like it's the different styles. Like we can adapt, and there's that adaptation. Like so, what they're gonna do. So like we'll blow you away. We'll get one goal. Should have been a couple more. Like Van Dijk hits the post, and he has another chance, and Trent has a chance. There's a few chances in there that we should put away. And then you kind of like, there's that niggling doubt in the back of your mind, like we need to make these count. But I think we've always got that ability to like, after the first half, start of the second half, they get a bit of a foothold in the game. But you never really feel like they're going to actually do anything with it. And it's the ability for us to, change the style and adapt to what they're trying to do.
They don't get a decent shot away, is what I'd say. That was what I was beginning to think as the second half was wearing. And I was annoyed we went further ahead. But what I liked, and I liked it more in hindsight, obviously in the game you live in the game, we threw everything at them for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and it was only 1-0. And what we didn't do was keep throwing everything at them. Yeah. What we did instead was say to ourselves, all right, we've given that a good go. It's only one. What we're not going to do is drive ourselves mad and go and get two. Last season, we'd have gone for two. If you go back to 1920, we'd actually have settled at one. In 1920, because it was a more mature team. And then that's the maturity. I think this team's on a journey of maturity. Everyone keeps talking about you play, X is another year older. And everyone always uses that in football like it's a negative. All of our midfielders last season were under 25, apart from Endo. So X is another year older. Oh, is X another year older? Is he? Well, that's great. Because he's got one more year's experience. And Callister will finish this season 26. He's our oldest midfielder who's starting regularly for the club now. That's brilliant. And I think you got to see there was just a maturity about them, I thought, in the second half. Sorry, in the second half of the first half. A real maturity about them where I just think they went, all right, well, it's not quite gone the way we deserve. But what we're not going to do is we're not going to risk everything to get a second. Now we'll just take this, get half-time, 1-0, keep it at arm's length. Second half, they worked us a bit more, made us suffer a bit more. But all the way through, it felt like, no, we know how to score a goal here. And then finally it comes.
Yeah. You all right, by the way?
Just being nosy.
Oh, you wanted to watch? Oh, do you want to come up?
Just wanted to watch. She clearly just wanted to watch.
Just wanted to check. I haven't cut that out.
Keep it in.
I'm watching. Featuring Annie. Yeah, I think that's a big thing of this season. I think we've seen it from Slot. Like I just mentioned, the ability, and like you said, the players that we've got, like on the periphery that I'm really enjoying as well. Like the likes of if Curtis Jones and Stanley's coming on, he's making an impact.
It's been great.
And you see Quanta coming on, and you're like, all right, that means Gomez is going right and Gomez is going in. It doesn't mean that. It means Quanta's going right back, and you're like, what the fuck's going on here? But it was obviously more of a ploy to try and stem the Doku effect, whatever that may be, with the box of tricks with no end product.
Yeah, I think it's that, but I think it's also, listen, no manager. It's it's old school Sunday league football. No one wants to disrupt the back four.
Yeah.
So if you can if you move Gomez, you change two things. If you just do Quanta, you change one.
Yeah.
And I think that is, that's just eminently practical. What I liked about the subs was I actually just thought at least Nunez at the time, but then also Quanta in hindsight, they're just tons of sense. They're not genius tactical switches. They're just really sensible, if you see what I mean, and really well timed. I thought Nunez made a massive difference when he came on because they were just beginning to push up the pitch, and he went, no, you're going back there. And I think also what I think the manager is really good at is he played the psychology. Ruben Diaz wants no part of Darwin Nunez. So the first thing he did was go, we're dropping in, boys, because I'm not getting made a show of here. And in the end, he sort of was to an extent. He wants nothing to do with him. Last season, Guardiola didn't play him against us. He was fit. He played the game against Arsenal. He played the game before, the game after. Didn't start him against us, and he's his captain and his defensive leader. Didn't use him because he didn't want Darwin Nunez all over him. And I think you got to see part of the reason why. And all of it just at the minute, the thing that I'm really loving with Slot is everything's very measured, very calm. There's very rarely anything that you go, my God, that's left field. Probably the only thing that falls into that category is Southern Quanta, game one. Everything else has just been, you've looked back on it and nothing's come over like, oh, well, that's mad.
Yeah.
And it worked. Instead, it's just been, oh, that was just a sensible thing to do. Don't start Jones in that one against City. Are you sure? Yes, Szoboszlai run all over them. Szoboszlai runs all over them. It's just a sensible thing to do over and over again. He was
boss again, wasn't he?
He was great.
Yeah, incredible.
Great in big games.
Yeah. And like you said, like the players that we're relying on in reserve, the likes of Quanta or Gomez, who's coming in and been like, it's mad, like when you think about it, like Gomez, he's coming in like out of the cold really, and is able just to kind of plug those gaps. But it's not like he's not feeling that he's not been in the squad. It feels like he's been like a part of it the whole time, and obviously he has for a long period. But like in terms of like match fitness and whatever, he's not been quite there in terms of like. Obviously, we've got better players than him, and maybe stronger players in those areas. But he's having to bide his time, and he's the stuff that he's been producing, especially centre half, coming in for centre half alongside Van Dijk to kind of shut up shop against Haaland. Like that's a massive task in itself, isn't it?
It is, but one of the things that hit me when the team sheet drops for the City game, it's a league winning back four.
Yeah.
Back four that won the league.
Yeah,
and
exactly. Yeah.
That's now, that's now 5 years ago, but that was the league winning back four. When you think of that team in 2019, 2020, you pick those four players. They know what it is to do this. And I think that this is a little bit of, the understandable irritation with some of the noise that's coming out of Arsenal supporters, mostly online, but even Arteta's done a little bit of it now, like, we know how they're going to find out how hard it is to do X or Y. I'm sorry, lad, we literally wrote the book on how hard that is and how hard it is to keep pace with City. Yeah. We've been there, we've seen it. But not just that we've seen it as supporters. Liverpool's starting back four has seen it. The Liverpool's starting back four can write the book. Mo Salah knows about it inside and out. And that to me is... And also Diaz is there when we're going up against City in 21-22. Don't win it, but is there and was part of that back then. Jones was around the club then. Elliott was around the club then. There's these players. Alisson, when he's fit, knows all about it and what it takes. And I think that we're in a nice little sweet spot in terms of age of players, in terms of a good level of experience, a great level of energy. I said before about McAllister, 26, he won the World Cup.
Yeah, I know.
He knows how to win.
Yeah, that's craziness.
So you've just got this thing where so many of them you just look at and go, you know what? Firstly, there's those of you that know how to do it. Secondly, there's those of you that are desperate to do it. And thirdly, there's those of you who've got the legs to go and do it. And it's a nice little sweet spot that we've hit where we are, where our opponents are. It can all go wrong. Might be whoever's doing episode 3 with you doing it off the back of 2 draws against Newcastle and Everton because it's difficult to go to those grounds and get results. And, you don't do it every year. We didn't manage it last year at Everton. Yeah. And we were, in inverted commas, fortunate at Newcastle. They should have been home and hosed. Yeah. But I just think it's there for us at the minute. And it feels to me like everyone's suddenly got this groove. And to me, when you mention that game against Real and that game against Manchester United, I'll say again, that year, they go on from there in the league at least. They get mugged by Hiddings, Chelsea, but they go on there from there in the league, and it's only a mad 4-4 where Arshavin gets forward against Arsenal that stops them. Yeah. Everything else, they're just in the groove, and at the minute that's what they look to me, and I think they'll take some knocking out of it.
Yeah, I think that it's mad when you think like the amount of we're squeezing every ounce. It feels like out of the players, like in terms of like potential as well. Like Gakpo's been, like you mentioned, Gravenberch's been amazing. Gakpo's been amazing. Gomez when he comes in has been really good. Jones has been like a new fella since he had a kid. Yeah, it's like there's so many of them where you can go. He's like slots improved him, and I think it's like maybe just like simplifying stuff in terms of like it's not proper gung ho like fucking crazy footy in the way that it was maybe in the last 12 months, 18 months of Jurgen Klopp. More control. It's like, well, we're going to try and bait you out and conserve possession and conserve energy. And I was hoping that was going to relate to keeping more fellas fit, and it was working up until Kanate got injured by a bit of a shithouse tackle by Hendrick in the last 30 seconds of the
He was a nightmare in the end. Yeah. Normally you can laugh at this stuff, but I genuinely sort of feel as though he did enough for 2 yellow cards, and he shouldn't have been on then by that point. Yeah. And the referees, he's a young lad, and the referee's trying to be, the referee doesn't want to start signing Real Madrid players off and Liverpool have won the game. No. I understand that. Yeah. But at no point does anyone get a grip of the lad and say, you need to grow up here. Of his teammates even. A lot of Real senior players, I think, have made a move by then and the others were sulking. But one of them should have just sort of said, you're gonna get someone hurt. Yeah. And then it goes the way in which it does. I'm annoyed about that, really. I think the fitness point is, if the manager was here now, he'd say, that it's annoying, but there's a fair few of them coming back. Elliott's getting closer. Chiesa's back training. Elliott gets off the bench there against City. Jota supposedly is getting closer. Alisson, I think they're going to really manage, but he'll be there or thereabouts. And then I think, the question is, can Tsimikas play some part in Girona? Can Tsimikas play some part against Southampton in the League Cup? What are of those two? I think that'd be no bad thing from Liverpool's point of view. I think they've just got to all survive through the next 2. But we knew that. Even if everyone was fit, I'd be saying the same thing. Yeah, when you saw the fixtures after the Champions League draw, you saw Real Madrid, Manchester City, Newcastle away, Everton away, and you were like, that'll take some doing.
Yeah. I think that's it's massive, especially when this run of games is going to be. We need to be. It's the ruthlessness, I think, that we need to see. And the control, which I think hopefully, like, obviously starting tomorrow with Newcastle. But before we get into Newcastle stuff, I just wanted to get your take on the contract stuff, because getting a bit tiresome, and I think it's only getting tiresome because it's not been fixed yet. It's not been sorted yet. So the questions, like, every press conference are there, and like you said, you're enjoying like Salah's like the way that he's like answering questions, and like Verge is like answered a couple as well, and then Trent is a bit more quieter. But what are your thoughts on all this, like, in terms of like who do you think stays and goes and all that?
So where I end up with it is, I think you've got to reflect on the whole process all the way back to everyone's last contracts. So first and foremost, I'm irritated, but don't know enough about it around why does Trent only do 4 years and not 5?
Yeah.
But let's allow for a second the idea that Trent only wanted 4 years and not 5, because he may have wanted the current situation or a variant on it. He may have thought by then I might have feel as though I've done enough of English football for a variety of reasons. Could be wrong. Could just be that he just wanted a bit of agency. You know, I'm not saying there has to be a grand plan, but it's interesting. Why is it 4 years and not 5? For a player of that age, normally would be. Yeah. Then I think the Salah contract last time, what's really interesting about it is it felt like he was an exception. Like, the age of him. If we remember, you know, the Salah contract drops from nowhere and people are beginning to talk about Salah more and more, and then just drops from nowhere that Salah signed last time. And I think Liverpool put him on money that made him an exception. You know, Cy Hughes is reporting, and, you know, he's written the book, literally the book on Salah, and it's worth reading, by the way, that, you know, Salah's regular weekly earner from Liverpool is closer to £1 million than it is to £500,000. His basic is down, but Liverpool have a ton of bonuses, and Salah is activating those bonuses. Yeah. So Salah becomes an exception. Liverpool pays Salah an amount of money that doesn't reflect Liverpool's wage structure. And I think this is a really important bit for people to try to get their heads around, who are getting frustrated with the process. What I mean by that is, ultimately, I think that what Liverpool do is Liverpool's wage structure is taken off Van Dijk. Yeah. It's not taken off Salah. Salah's one exception. Everyone else is off Van Dijk. So as far as we know, Van Dijk is the second highest earner of Liverpool, and everyone else sort of groups behind Van Dijk. I think what's difficult is this should be the biggest contract of Trent's career. So therefore, Trent will theoretically go closer to where Salah is now than where he is now, because that's what he is. And I think and that's if Trent wants to stay, but let's just sort of go the arguments all the way through. Let's say that's what it would take for Liverpool to keep Trent, is to pay him effectively close to what Salah's on now. You can't have two exceptions. Yeah. And then what happens when, in 18 months' time, Ubu Konate comes in and says, it's all right, I don't want Salah money. I'll just have 90% of what Trent's on. Yeah. And then suddenly your whole wage structure goes fuck off. Yeah. Because that's now where you're tapering yourself. Now, there'll be people listening to this who rightly say, well, lad, that's modern footy. Yeah. Liverpool is a super club, this is the way you've got to go. But Liverpool's, the money they already pay out in wages and their football costs are close to what UEFA's threshold will be in 2025 in terms of money in, and it's dry accountancy stuff, but they're not far off. And then the next phase of this could well, but the other thing I think to remember, is we all love transfers. Football costs includes literally fucking paying transfer fees. Yeah. So Liverpool don't want to limit them. The budget is the football operating budget is the football operating budget. If we think of it all in together, do Liverpool want to tie the hands and undermine future wage stuff? And that's why I think it's so I've got sympathy for the fella who's just come in. Yeah. He doesn't have to take the job. He gets paid well to do the job, Nick. So let's be clear. I've got tons of sympathy, but I've got a little bit of sympathy because he's come in, he's inherited this, but I don't think he's inherited a 6-month problem or even I think, you know, Trent's contract, I think Michael Edwards is still at the club in his first role when Trent's first contract's done. So I think that this stuff's in the post for that long, if you see what I mean. Yeah. It's all come to a head. So if you're asking me what I think will happen, is I think Liverpool, the next phase of this as well, the last final thing is, I don't think the owners, the ownership group, the hedge fund, the fucking hedge fund that owns Liverpool is that bothered. But if there's an area where the hedge fund that owns Liverpool, and let's be clear, John Henry owns the majority of this hedge fund, but other people own 3% of the hedge fund. So let's remember it's a hedge fund. Yeah. They'll be saying, hang on, if that right back signs a new deal, he's worth 150 million quid. Let's just say that, 150 million quid. That's 3 to 5% of the whole asset. Yeah. So have we done enough to secure him? because that's 3 to 5% of the whole asset. And I own a hedge fund by that. I own shares in a hedge fund. So I want to know you've done your job, your due diligence, you've gone through the process. And, you know, and as I say, John Henry, when people talk about John Henry, he is not the only person who owns a stake in Fenway Sports Group. Loads of fucking people do, because it's a hedge fund. So you end up in this situation where I ultimately think Trent's going to go.
Yeah.
But I think Liverpool, the people who are running Liverpool, who have to report to the hedge fund, need to be able to demonstrate that within the constraints of everything we've gone through, we've made a more than fair offer, because he'd be worth that money, and Salah and Van Dijk wouldn't, because they've got no resale value in practical terms now because of the age they're at. So you're in a situation where I think Trent's going. I genuinely now think Trent's going. But I think Liverpool, the people who run Liverpool, have got to go through this dance where the decision goes one way or another on Trent, which I think will be he's going, and then I think the box Van Dijk and Salah like that.
As a result of that. Yeah.
And then Salah's still the exception.
Yeah.
Van Dijk might get a bump or might just stay with what he's on, and Liverpool will say the same rules still apply. So when Canate comes in for his contract and his agent says, well, we think he's got this value and this value and this value, Liverpool say, we absolutely agree with you, to his agent, but we'll give him 90% of what Virgil van Dijk's on. And then his agent might say, well, can we have 90% of what Mo Salah's on? And they'll go, no, that's not the rules. That's not the way it works. Yeah. You can have 90% of Virgil. Yeah. And Virgil's brilliant. He's the club captain. Yeah. Virgil's the one we take value from, not Salah. Yeah. And Liverpool, the flip side of this is, let's just say for a second, Liverpool gave Trent something approaching Salah's wages, and he may well be worth it, and I love the lad. Yeah. But imagine then, the next time, Liverpool, let's say Mamouche, everyone likes Mamouche, let's say Mamouche, and he keeps scoring the goals he's scoring, and he rocks up to Liverpool, and he takes 120 grand a week on his first contract, but year one he takes the piss, and he scores 39 and 38 league games. He knocks on the manager's door, well, on Richard Hughes' door, his agent, and says, we'll have what Trent's on. Because he's a fucking right back. Yeah. I'm the centre fireworks. Yeah. I've scored 39 and 38. Yeah. I'm worth every penny. Yeah. I'm what powers you. You give me what he's on. And then the next fella says, well, I'll have 80% of what Mamouche is on. Yeah. And I'll have 80% of what the right back's on. And I think this is why it is difficult, and this is why I've got tons. I say again, a modicum of sympathy because he's very well paid for it. But I think pulling all this in, I genuinely think how this plays out now is Trent goes, and that's fine. If he wants to go, he wants to go, because I think he wants to go. And I understand why he wants to go. You know, people from this city get to go and live their lives somewhere else and try things, and I can support that. I'm not going to be made up for him. I'm not going to will Madrid on. No, exactly. You know, I want Madrid to crash in a ditch. And, you know, I want the car to come off the road. But he goes, and I think Van Dijk and Salah, I think they stay for, I think in Salah's case, for at least a 12-month extension. And I think Virgil pretty much sees his career out with us. And I'll be all right with that.
Yeah, I think I had a little bit of a discussion about, like, people were saying to me maybe, have FSG, like, outgrown their, like, capabilities to kind of run Liverpool, because like obviously all that stuff you've just been mentioning there, like I'm not like you've probably just taught me a thing or two there in terms of like how like financially stuff works, but like their like set system, while it works in its current format, in terms of going forward,
but everyone's got to adhere to the same UEFA rules, which is percentage of. Now listen, I want those rules to be fucking nailed down, and I want those rules where people transgress, and it looks like recently Barcelona have, and UEFA haven't punished them as much as I'd like. That's a political process, it'll take a bit of time. But literally UEFA have a wages to turnover rule on 70% of football costs to your turnover. So if the argument is someone could come in and send Liverpool's turnover through the roof, at which point the football costs could go through the roof, then fine, if you know what I mean. Like, but I feel like, fucking hell, the asset is sweated where partners are concerned from Liverpool's point of view. And the only way you'd up the other thing, the other aspect is to get more prize money. Well, we're top of everything. At the minute, from their point of view, we're top of everything. Yeah. So, for instance, does anyone listening to this plausibly think Liverpool aren't playing Champions League football next season? Yeah. We're definitely doing that. Exactly. So, all you can do, how else do you get more money in? Well, we don't want them to put ticket prices up. If anything, we want them to put ticket prices down.
Well, that's what was
in this universe as well. Yeah. So it could well be that, listen, it could be that you could come in, you could get the next argument there. Well, there's two arguments, I think. One is that you want a gang of cheats, which a nation state, and you could diddle the books for a period, and you probably get away with it for longer than other teams might because you're Liverpool. But you would have more microscopes on you because you're Liverpool. Like, let's be clear about this: if the Liverpool Football Club was bought out by the sort of people who own a couple of other football clubs in the Premier League, they would be hounded for every bit of compliance. But they could well be smart enough because guess what? As an asset, Liverpool is worth more than these other clubs. You know, Liverpool's natural partnership ceiling could be higher. So you could take the piss, possibly. So that's number one. But do you want that? People listening might not. Number two, I think, is the next phase is, do we want Liverpool to be the baddies? And what I mean by be the baddies is push for breaking the Premier League. People watch the Premier League for 4 reasons. One is their team's playing, one is a big game at the bottom, one is a big game at the top, and the other one is Liverpool and Man United are playing. We are the product. And I like that Schlott's walked in through the door and made it, thrown the weight around. What I mean is he's made it clear if you're involved with Liverpool, you're involved with one of the biggest football institutions in the world. So the standards are here, and that's what he's done. But do we want our owners to effectively say, we'll do Super Leagues because we'll get more money, and then we can spend more money. We'll do, and also the assets will be worth more. We're a hedge fund. We want, we'll break the Premier League. We'll say collective bargaining, go fuck yourself. We want our share, and we think us and Man United think we're each worth 20% of that money. Negotiators down. So should we do it then? Let's go. Do we want that? Because that is, and that's a really fair question. It genuinely is a fair question. Do we want to be the baddies? And there's other ways that we might have to be the baddies, not just in those ways. Or we might choose to be the baddies, and it might be that some of the fan base likes it, and some of the fan base doesn't, and it causes problems. I know what I want, which is Liverpool to be winning. They are. Cheaper tickets, which we don't have. I want Liverpool to lead the way around compliance in football in terms of where the rules are. I think Liverpool should be at the vanguard of that because I think it's in Liverpool's interests. I don't know if it's in the hedge fund's interests, but I think it's in Liverpool's interests. So I want Liverpool to be at the vanguard of that, to say, there should be rules. And if you break the rules, and if it needs the state to back it up with a regulator, we'll back that 100%. And Liverpool have failed to do that so far. And that's a reason to be critical of them. It's in Liverpool's interests that there is strong regulation around football. So we can do, and also we can reduce the ticket prices because we're in better nick, because everyone else has got, and there's another phase of this process, like, I'm banging on here, sorry Mick.
No.
People who are really worried about the money in football and where money's getting, who think Liverpool need to spend more on X, Y or Z. Well, Manchester City supporters have spent 2 years, 3 years saying City aren't spending enough. And you can see that that's come home to roost to an extent. The summer just gone, Arsenal supporters thought they should have gone and spent big money on another attacker. Every summer, there's some teams who come with a run and whack some money down. And then there's the point where they've then got to recalibrate and think again. And it's very rarely us, don't get me wrong, or the last summer we did buy 4 midfielders in the summer. But it's very rarely us in that sense. But what I think is worth pointing out is Paris Saint-Germain broke the world transfer record for Neymar. It's not moved since. If the rules work, everything should be coming down. Everything should, if the rules work. If the rules are undermined, or the rules don't work, or the rules are wrong rules, then we will find it harder. But right now, everything has come down to an extent. Manchester United are out £414 million in transfer fees as we sit here. That's what they've got on their books. They've got to fucking deal with that. So everything, I think, will be coming down a little bit. But then that's dead hard in the context. And this is why, again, this is where the contracts come back in. This is your wages point. Because Trent's one of the very best players in the world, and he's saying, pay me accordingly. And Liverpool are probably looking at the overall picture and going, well, we think wages are going to, not for people who currently get this money, go down, but people are going to be slower in handing out increases. So, but your problem, Trent, is you're 26. So you've got to here, you feel like you should be here, but we need, for us, but it might be that it works for you at Real Madrid.
Yeah, exactly.
And it might be, and I'm not sure what the legal level of the podcast is, but it might be that, I don't know, maybe Real Madrid are very clever in the way in which they reward their players. Maybe there's some stuff going on, but that stuff won't be going on at Liverpool. And this is back to your point, and someone who might want FSG to go's point, which is because Liverpool are a hedge fund. So it might be that clever can happen elsewhere at other clubs easier. Stuff can happen that's off to one side easier. It can't happen at Liverpool. Liverpool have to, but that's again why I think Liverpool should be the fucking rules, boys. Let's get all the fucking rules nailed on. Exactly, we back the rules. And I think thinking all this through, and it's a shame really, I mean, people listening to this might have already switched off by now or might want me dead, but it's a shame.
I'm sure not.
It's a shame, but a shame. But my thing about this is that ultimately, for me, the best 90 minutes of any week is watching them on the pitch. We have to talk about all this other stuff, or people can choose not to listen to it, and if that's you, that's absolutely fine. But I love them on the pitch. I love watching them play football. What we saw against City, you just said how you felt coming out. You probably rarely be prouder to be a Liverpool team.
Incredible.
So we need to be able to put this stuff in a box and go. The current setup and the way we're going about things gives us days like Sunday. We got Sunday. It was fucking brilliant.
Exactly.
And we need to hold that. This money stuff, hedge funds, state ownership. You know, for me, it's important. It's so important. It's the fabric of the game on the one sense. But I just love watching them on the grass. I'm going to Newcastle tomorrow. I'm getting picked up first thing. I can't wait. I want to watch them again. I'm going to Goodison and I can't believe how lucky I am. And I might regret that. But I want to watch them again. And I think holding that bit close is so important.
It is.
And letting this stuff maybe at times, and I do the Anfield rap. They pay us to listen to stuff like this. So I want to be conscious of that. And be honest about that and say there's a hypocrisy in that. But for me, I think there's just a thing of, I just love watching them. And I've just had 10 years of loving watching them. And at a point where people say it's your job and, you know, do you not get bored or get cynical? I've never enjoyed literally watching footballers run around on grass more. I include the opposition. The quality of the Premier League now is second to none. Brighton came, they were brilliant. He wants to clap them off. He clapped Modric off and I was made up. You want to say these footballers, you're great. Fucking is right. Because you love the play. But Modric will have a contract right now. He's on 200 grand a week. And so the money, you can end up driving yourself mad with the money. I think you've got to remember the spectacle and the specialness of it. And this is what we want.
Well, that's kind of why I wanted to bring it up, because I've spoke about it loads on our pod, like the contracts and stuff, and you can talk about it till you're blue in the face, but obviously I wanted to get your expertise, knowing that you know the amount that you do about it.
I've got no inside knowledge. This is a really important point.
You're not in the know,
on the contracts, no, I'm not in the know. Never tell anyone I'm in the know. It was dead funny last week. You know when they put Slott's contract press conference on the Thursday? So I said in our work WhatsApp group, when that came through, right, that's interesting. It suggests that maybe something's going to happen tomorrow. And that went out as a rumour. And then a couple of the aggregated accounts went big on that Van Dijk's contract's going to get sorted. Exclusive Van Dijk's contract's going to get sorted tomorrow. And I said in our WhatsApp group, I reckon it'll be Van Dijk. If it's going to be anything at this point, it'll be Van Dijk. Anyway, it was fucking nothing. Some people just wanted a day off. So he did his press conference a day earlier. That's actually what happened. What I love though is I obviously, we would never put this out at the Anfield rap anyway, but that was just my guess is, well, it might be Van Dijk's, and loads of people who try to act like they're in the know, who aren't stupid people, came to the same conclusion as me, but put it out there as though they had inside story, and they never. And everyone should just remember that. Most of what acting like you're in the know is just taking the information and just basically making an educated guess. And then afterwards, when you get it right, going, I got it right. And when you got it wrong, just delete the tweet.
Well, there's that, and there's like this flip side where like people say like, it's just to cover all bases, isn't it? Like, so if something happens, you go, pull up a tweet from 2022. Lads, I told you 2 years ago.
All the way through.
Do you know what I mean?
I knew.
And you go on their profile, search that name. There's fucking shitload of stuff. Probably loads of that's been deleted as well, by the way. But loads of stuff that's on there that they're speaking about. But yeah, moving away from contracts, then let's talk about Newcastle, because like you mentioned, you're going tomorrow. It's going to be tricky. And I mentioned earlier, it's like a starter show, like being ruthless. I think in this run of games, like where like Southampton was harder than we expected, Madrid was easier than we expected.
Maybe,
same with City, I guess, in a certain way. But Newcastle, like, their form's a bit mad because they've had a bit of patchy form, but against the bigger sides, they beat Arsenal and whatever. So
Drew City.
So it's like, and you said that as well. The start of the show, you maybe come away from these two with Newcastle and Everton expecting 4 points. And I think that like everyone's like, well, we need to be ruthless. Let's make sure we get 6 points from these two. But I think in that respect though, like it's one of them that if we turn up and we're the best we can be, we should have enough to beat Newcastle, and then we should have enough to beat Everton and keep this like motion going.
Yeah, and I think they'll be thinking 6 points. You know, I'm just saying we need to be prepared for the idea it could be 4.
Yeah.
Last season, Trent gets booked there within a minute because it's mad. And then Virgil gets sent off, and I'm still not having it, but it's fine. Because we win the game in the end, and it's even more dramatic. But, you know, we're down to 10 men. We go 1-0 down. And that's sometimes how games of football go. They start fast. And I think they'll start fast against us again. And, you know, we can think we'll be better, and we can be better in the round. And there isn't a, you know, Newcastle could win 2-0. And there wouldn't be a Newcastle supporter who walked out to that ground who went, we're better than them. Because, you know, they'd all be going, well, they might say they're not quite what they were built up to be, but they won't say we're better than them. So it's, you know, it's a game of football. That's the way it can go. But I think Liverpool at the minute just seems so focused. And I think also, back to the experience point, they know what it is to go and do this. They know what it is to do, you know, Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday. Newcastle have had a day's more rest, but I watched them against Palace, second half, and fuck me, there's so much graft and so little guile. They worked their plums off. They really did. But they had nothing, final thirds, nothing of quality, apart from what actually leads to the own goal. They just didn't have a shot after the own goal. It was mad, really, in that they were for 15 minutes, they were clearly the ascending side. But it was like some sort of bet where we'll just win this 1-0. Do you know what I mean? It's really odd to watch. So I was just thinking, well, they're just going to go and take them to the cleaners in a minute. It doesn't come. And I'm in a bit of a funny place as a club. I've done a couple of Newcastle podcasts leading into this game because they've got a nice community up there, and they ask, and I'm always happy to do it if I can. And it's interesting sort of listening to them having watched that game, because that's their frustration. You know, this season it's very interesting. You look at Newcastle, look at Spurs, look at Brighton. Brighton have drawn at home with the current bottom 3. Drawn at home with the current bottom 3. Yeah. If you give Brighton 6 more points right now, they're our closest challengers by a mile. Spurs have had some mad games, but they've also got beat by Ipswich and Crystal Palace. Give Spurs 6 more points right now as that table look. And Newcastle have got no consistency at all against the bottom 10. But, as you say, they're a muscular side, a robust side, a physically imposing side, and they're a side that knows how to play on the counter, how to play on transition, and we'll look at the game coming up against us and think, you know what, we can get something against them. And they have a level, I think, of confidence that, if nothing else, you'll get a showing, that it'll be a game. So, worried about the wrong way to frame it. I think we're going to win the game. I think we're going to win the game 3-1. But just sort of the view we need to be prepared for it might just turn into 1. And if you think about our games back there, like let's go back to 2018-19 when it takes the Origi header. You know, the one where we get Nick Pope sent off, we start fast and put them under loads of pressure. First 20, Nunez is great. But he scores, and we get the second. They go down to 10 men. But it's a bit of a weird game. After that point last season, we need what we need. Even as the one where Keita scores in 21-22, Diaz plays right, Salah doesn't start. They've all been tight. So I just think that's for me, anyone who's listening to this, prepare yourself. We're in for 1. And I think that's the main takeaway from it. You know, we can talk a lot, and we do talk a lot on a wide variety of things, but for me, it's one sentence. We're absolutely in for 1 here. These next 2 away games, they're going to be so hard, and in the case of the second one, so emotional.
Yeah, well, that's it, isn't it? I think, like, and one thing I wanted to talk about, like, just before we finish up, is like Slot mentioned today in his press about like needing to be maybe creative in that like back line, because obviously we've got the injuries with like Bradley, Recognitis, and the cast. Like, I've just been of the opinion like his blueprint is get you as strong a team as you can on that pitch, try and win it 60, try and bring them off. Obviously, it doesn't work out like that in most games because the Premier League, like you've mentioned, is fucking so difficult. But I think that's generally what he tries to do. But like in terms of like the games cut up like Girona and stuff like that. In terms of like being creative, obviously we saw Quansah out on as a right back. Jones has played there last year. I don't know if that's maybe a shout. Like I'm just trying to think like creatively in terms of like that back four maybe like predominantly. What type of stuff do you reckon we might see like going forward?
I think it'll just for now be Quansah. It'll be Gomez. I think Gomez gets the next 2 at centre back for certain. I think what he then does at Girona is a little bit of a okay. Let's maybe see the moment, maybe see how Verge is, maybe sort of go from there. But I think for now, I think it will just be that. I think you might see Quansah starting Girona at right back. I think he likes having a stable box in front of his goalkeeper. Sorry about that.
Sure.
So I think he like for instance, I think he will always fall back to how do I get Van Dijk, Canate, now Gomez, McAllister and Gravenberch. If I think it's going to be a game that we need to get something out of, how do I get that box of four that sits in front of the keeper and is rock solid? But I'll change away from that. So I think Gomez is in now at centre back until Canate's back.
Yeah.
At which point it might be a little bit different. So I think Quansah might come in, will come off the bench to look after Trent and manage his minutes a little bit in the next two. It might be that he then earns the start against Girona if it's gone well. I think Robertson might just be asked to go and go because he's early 30s, should know how to manage himself. I feel as though he's come back from the international break in good nick.
Yeah.
And
what are your thoughts on because I think in terms of left back, Gomez has played there last year and done
really well.
I thought it was incredible. In games he was so good, but it doesn't seem like he likes the opposite foot on that side.
No, but I also just think for now Gomez is playing centre back. Canate's back fit. Gomez might go there, but I think for now Gomez is just going to play centre back. I don't think he wants to. I don't think he wants to deviate or overcomplicate with a couple of the players. Gravenberch will stay where he is. McAllister will stay where he is. I think McAllister might not start against Newcastle. I think he might go with Jones because then I think he might have the idea of it's McAllister for Everton and Girona. Let him do that back to back, and then we'll sort of see what everyone else is up to. I think Gravenberch will get all the games until the Southampton away game, at which point he'll be bombed out. He might have a look at Endo for Girona, but I think it's far likely that he just thinks, no, it's the Tuesday, we'll get through it, maybe use Endo off the bench.
Yeah.
And then I think, for Newcastle it'll be Szoboszlai, and I think for the derby I think it'll be Jones. Because Szoboszlai's hard running versus Jones's guile, when we expect Everton to just continually give up possession. Well, I'd rather have the guile than the hard running.
Exactly.
At that sort of stage. And then I think for Newcastle, I think it might be Gakpo, Nunez and Salah, because Newcastle are a big set of boys. And then for Everton, I think it might be Gakpo, Diaz, Salah, and then Diaz off the bench for the game against Newcastle. And for now, that's how we can manage it. And then I think we get the other side of that. Girona, it might be a bit of a mix and match team who's fit. Who's ready for this? Because Saturday, it's also Tuesday 5:45 with a flight lashed in there. It's a big ask for the Merseyside derby. I mean, I've from some distance out, I've thought the smart money's on Girona for this one. But they're in such good nick at the minute. You can say that, but you just back them to do anything.
Yeah.
Southampton, I think it really will be a League Cup team.
Yeah,
I think it really will, and it should be.
It should be, yeah.
And I think we've all got to make our peace with that. And if they go out, they go out. I personally don't think they will, because I think Southampton are still making changes themselves and they've got so many pressures. But I think they're just in such good nick, and it might be a League Cup team. I'd still expect Tyler Morton to come in and look great. Let's be honest.
Exactly. I think that's the thing, isn't it? Because I think we're kind of maybe skewed a little bit in terms of what we can expect, because Liverpool have been going for everything over the last couple of years. So you're thinking, if you go out of the cup, it's that might be seen as a weakness. It's but why haven't you gone through? But in terms of the long term goal, Premier League and Champions League, they're obviously we're top of both of them. They're the main fellas. They always have been. We always want to try and get there. And if you can have the opportunity to go out of a domestic cup to enhance your chances of winning one of them, it's a fucking no-brainer, isn't it?
It's not the worst thing in the world. I just think, though, you've got to obviously send every team on to win. And one of the problems is they're playing such good stuff and they'll win.
Yeah.
I think you could... Southampton, there's a chance Chiesa's back in and around the picture. There's a chance Jota's back in and around the picture. And then one of the four that has been, wouldn't have started the previous game.
Yeah.
So maybe one of those has dropped in, and there's a chance Elliott. But I think Elliott will be starting against Southampton. So suddenly now we're looking at our starting midfield against Southampton, and we're saying, well, it's Wataru Endo, Tyler Morton, and Harvey Elliott, and there's a chance the front three. Chance, not necessarily going to be the case, but there's a chance the front three is Chiesa, Jota, and either a Gakpo or Diaz. I'll tell you what.
Still sounding it.
It's great.
Yeah.
And if Shimikas is back around by Southampton, he's dropping into left back, and he's done more than well enough this season. And then your question just becomes, can you go Gomez Quansah? If you do, what are you doing at right back? What's the overall strategy there? That might be where it gets a bit tough, for him to think all that through. But it's a great place to be in. And one of the thing about the domestic cups is you can say you don't want to take them seriously, but then you can just keep winning.
Yeah.
And tell you what, there's worse problems.
And it's a momentum thing as well, though, isn't it? Because I think I had a discussion about Madrid, because it was should we rest players ahead of Man City? I was I get the point of view, But like, I think momentum is a massive thing in footy. It's absolutely fucking huge, and obviously it's one of them intangible things. But it's a thing that, like, every game to game, if you're putting the best teams out, your next game is going to obviously be a little bit easier because of that, I think.
And the other thing just to point out is that Everton need to give the left arm for these problems.
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
No, it's really important. Like, you've got no sense at times. You've got to, the idea of we're in the quarterfinals of the domestic cup against the poorest team left in the competition. In terms of league position, I think I'm right in saying I don't think any championship team came through. So we're against the poorest team. We're in the quarterfinals of a domestic cup. We're top of the other things that we're involved in. We've got a third round FA Cup game against Atkinson Stanley. Like, if these are the problems, Christ was so fortunate. These are the problems that Newcastle kill for these problems. And Newcastle themselves have got a League Cup game on the horizon, but Newcastle kill for these problems. And Newcastle is a big club, big ground, big city. They kill for our problems. And, you can look to go higher. Manchester United to kill for our problems. That's how well it's going at the minute, and that's why we should be delighted and bouncing into every game.
Yeah, massively. Well, Neil, I had loads more to ask you, but we haven't got time.
So again, I'll come back. I'll see you next week.
That's come back on, yeah.
Yeah, 20 minutes.
You'll be sat in the corner, but Neil, come on, I'll get you the mic. That was Pod and a Pint episode 2. Nice one to Neil for jumping on. Nice one, everyone, for watching or listening, however you consume your media. We'll be back. I think we're back on Thursday. Hopefully, got Josh Williams on.
Oh,
you know him well.
Wow, he's a great man.
Yeah, so
it's worth reading as well.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, we'll get Neil back on very soon. But yeah, nice one for watching or listening, and we'll see you all very soon. Ta-ra.
I'm Jamie Carragher, and you are listening to the Copite Podcast.